So hello everyone, thank you for joining us for today's journey showcase on the special Winter Wonderland Trans-Siberian Express tour. My name's Natasha Baker and I'm the marketing manager for Golden Eagle Luxury Trains, and I'm thrilled to be joined by our longest serving tour manager on the Golden Eagle train, Tatiana Kolesnikova. And there is no better person to be delivering this presentation for you today, because Tatiana has travelled on this particular journey for 15 years now. So she's very well versed in the journey itself. She knows it inside and out and is the best person to be able to showcase not only the itinerary, but the various experiences on board and be able to tell you what you can actually expect from this particular journey. So we're going to jump straight into it. So after Tatiana has shown you the itinerary and obviously the day-by-day experiences, we'll then show you the Golden Eagle train and some of the accommodation types on board, as well as the public areas of the train. And then we'll have some time for your questions and answers at the end. So the whole presentation will last approximately 45 minutes, and then we've got your time for questions. So please feel free to send them through at any time using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer as many of those as we can live. So enjoy the presentation, and I will now hand over to Tatiana.
A very, very good day, my dear ladies and gentlemen. Autumn is here and winter will be coming very, very soon. In fact, in some places in Siberia, the first snowflakes have already fallen on the ground. So today I'm going to talk about a very, very special experience traveling across the Trans-Siberian Railway in winter time. And Siberia in winter really looks like a wonderland. Everything is beautifully covered with snow. What comes to people's mind when they talk about Siberia? Those images, right, that you can see on the screen right now. And Siberia and most of Russia is covered by winter for at least 5 or 6 months. This is the longest season in our country. The average temperatures, annual temperature for Russia is about 5.5 degrees below zero in Celsius, which is about 22 degrees in Fahrenheit. And it's not the coldness of our winter, then the length of it that makes you feel the character of Russians, the character of Siberians better, because such a long period in our lives is specified by the climate. Your outside activities are quite restricted. You have to put on all your warm gear. Definitely the temperatures in various parts of Russia differ a lot. Some severe winters in Yakutia, in the very northern part of Siberia, temperatures can go down to -60 in Celsius, which is about 76 in Fahrenheit. Well, European parts of Russia usually experience temperatures of around -10, 15, 20 Celsius, something between 14 and -4 in Fahrenheit. So these are the temperatures you're about to expect during our winter journey. As we go across the whole country, here's a map of our route, and it takes you all the way from Moscow, Vladivostok. The temperatures will vary from like -3, -5, probably in European part of the country like Moscow, to -15, 20, which usually happens in Siberia, and especially Trans-Baikal area beyond Lake Baikal. You can experience some more severe temperatures like -25, 27 in Celsius. In Fahrenheit, that will be temperatures vary from 15, 20 Celsius to 5-4 degrees in Fahrenheit, 15, 20 Fahrenheit to 5-4 Fahrenheit, and to -13, 17 as the coldest. And look at this map. You can start your journey either from Moscow or from Vladivostok. And if you look closer, some of the itineraries on these journeys are slightly different. On our eastbound journey, we're going into Mongolia, flying by a charter flight. On the westbound journey, we don't do a trip into Mongolia, but we have an extra stop in Khabarovsk, and we spend longer time in Lake Baikal area. So I will be mentioning all those different stops in the itinerary as we go day by day. Going across Russia in the winter will gives you a much better insight to the Russian character. Also, usually the winter trips have smaller groups that will give you some more personalized experience. And occasionally we have our own engine going between the cities. Sometimes we will be attached to the regular service trains just to pull us across without any communication between the two parts of the train. But the itinerary will not suffer from that as at all. And for winter time, you really need to be prepared. Even though sometimes the temperatures will be quite mild, you can expect some really colder weather, especially if the wind blows. So I just wanted to go slightly over the winter gear that the Golden Eagle provides on all our tours for our guests. First of all, the most important part, the winter boots. Winter shoes don't work in Russia. You have to really keep your feet warm. And for that, we provide the traditional Russian felt boots called valenki. Usually they have rubber soles or the rubber covers so that they're not going to be slippery. And you have to wear woolen socks inside. Actually, this is the reason why we always ask your shoe size as you book in. And we need you to tell your real shoe size, not the bigger like loose for the woolen socks. Those valenki, those felt boots, generations of Russians and Siberians have developed this special footwear that keeps you absolutely warm in winter, but they initially come a little bit loose so that you can put in the socks. And those you will find on board the train in your cabin. The other thing that is absolutely essential, the proper hat. We provide a proper ushanka, the winter hat with full ear flaps. When it is cold and windy, it is very important to have your ears covered and have your head well protected. We also provide our branded fleece scarf and the proper wear for your hands, vareshki, the traditional woolen mittens. All those things will be provided by the Golden Eagle in your cabin. But we do recommend that you bring some proper winter gear, like a proper winter coat, padded ski pants, and thermal underwear. That will be quite important in a lot of stops, especially because on this tour, we spend quite a lot of time outside in particular places like Lake Baikal, for example. And you can start your journey if you're going eastbound from Moscow. Moscow in winter looks pretty different from what you can see in summertime. Even if you have been to Moscow, you might not recognize it in its beautiful snow decoration and also beautiful New Year decoration. Russians' New Year is the biggest holiday for us. We celebrate it still bigger than Christmas. And since half of January for Russians is all festive times, we actually have 10 days off for the whole country. The decorations still stay on, even though the tour runs in February. Our Winter Wonderland tour runs between the mid-February to mid-March. Even in February, you can still see the Christmas tree there. You can also see all these beautiful decorations on Moscow streets. And particularly, the Kremlin looks quite mysterious and fantastic, all covered with the snow. On our tour in Moscow, you will have a chance to visit the heart of Moscow, the Kremlin, tour the city, see the most important sites of Moscow. And after a busy touring day, you will terminate your program in a beautiful Kazansky station where our train staff will meet you and escort you to your carriages. And we sleep overnight on board the train, get settled, get our first dinner. The next day in the morning, we arrive to a city called Kazan, located on the banks of Volga River and Kazanka River. And you can see an absolutely beautiful view of the Kazanka River from the Kremlin of Kazan, beautiful mosque and Russian Orthodox churches. You will explore the old Tatar areas, the old Tatar quarters, taste some local cuisine, being welcomed by a beautiful girl in their traditional national dress. Again, you will see plenty of decorations from the New Year everywhere, and have the flavor of living in a snowy winter city, as usually we take some part of the city as a walking tour. And again, you return on board, usually in the second half of the day after lunch, and continue your journey towards the Ural Mountains. And the next day, we already wake up at the Urals in Yekaterinburg, which is located right on the border between Europe and Asia. And Yekaterinburg is deeply connected with many parts of Russian and Siberian history. First of all, that's a place where the Romanovs were executed, and definitely you will come to the cathedral, which is consecrated to them. What you will see there, probably the first on our route, is the beautiful exhibition of some ice sculptures. That art of ice sculptures is quite traditional for many, many Russian cities, many Russian places. And in January, in February, all our cities are decorated with beautiful images. And this is one you can see right by the church of the way, which is devoted to the Romanovs. You will cross the border of Europe and Asia. You will cross, definitely it's just a geographical border. But what an important part of our journey that is. You will be leaving the relatively small but rather populated European part of the country, and you will cross into the vast and low populated part that is called Siberia. Yekaterinburg will also give you a good opportunity to indulge in our quite recent past, the 20th century past, the times of Stalin and the repressions, the times of Yeltsin, when freedom just loomed over this country. And this will give you a good background for our later talks and discussions about the development of Russia, about Russian history and Russian life. Because Yekaterinburg is the place where Yeltsin came from, and this is the only place where we have the presidential center, Yeltsin Center, which I personally think is one of the best places to visit to get a better understanding of Russian history of the 20th century. We're carrying on further on, and the next day we wake up in another city, Novosibirsk, the new Siberian city that appeared on the construction during the construction of the Trans-Siberian, at the place where this big, huge bridge across the Ob River, one of the biggest Siberian rivers, was constructed. Now you can see that the Ob is all frozen in wintertime. Most of Siberian rivers freeze all over with only small gaps sometimes, which are created by the power plants. And again, this city is all covered by very heavy blanket of snow. And seeing the most fantastic railway museum, which is located in Novosibirsk in the snow, makes it very mysterious and romantic. Just imagine how those steam engines were roaming across the snow fields in Siberia. You will have a chance to wander around the city, to visit this museum, to see some major sites of the city. Definitely we're going to make a stop by the big opera house. The opera house in Novosibirsk is called the Bolshoi of Siberia. And this is one of the most impressive theater buildings that is built in Russia. But usually we can go inside even in summertime. But usually in summer, all the theaters are on vacation. So in wintertime, we always have a chance to watch either a ballet or an opera or a music concert in that theater, which we did quite a few times as we were traveling in wintertime. And believe me, that theater provides really, really nice experience. It is rated one of the best in Russia, and its ballet school is also considered one of the best. They don't only perform there, they have a special ballet school which train the young ballerinas, and it's quite a special chance if we will have if you can watch a ballet in that theater. Very busy few days, and now we have a day to relax. One day after all those visits and Moscow and arriving, we spent on board the train, when you can only stretch your legs on the platforms, and you will see our cabin attendants jumping out and starting to clean under the carriages, because everything freezes in wintertime. Traveling by train in winter is not that easy, but you can watch from your cabin the beautiful landscapes, winter landscapes, unfolding behind your window. Even if it's very cold outside, inside the train, it is usually quite warm. In fact, Russians are quite obsessed with being warm in wintertime. Winter is such a long period that we have a saying in Russia: heat is not going to break your bones. And as you get to Russia in winter, you will easily notice it everywhere. In the stores, in the airport, probably, in the theaters, everywhere, it will be quite warm. This is part of our mentality. Everything is heated by the central heating, and people are much more worried about getting cold rather than getting too hot inside the buildings. Well, on the train, we try to keep it on moderate heating. But if you feel cold, there's always an additional heating button in your cabins. Unfortunately, the air conditioning cannot work in wintertime because it's too cold outside for it to operate. But if you get by somehow too hot, you can always open a window. And definitely on that day, you can relax and absorb what you have already seen. Probably plan your questions for the next few days. Talk to your fellow travelers or to some of us, our guest speakers. And usually on the evening, we will have a traditional Russian party, the Vodka Party. Well, you're in Siberia then, and this is one of our traditional antifreezes. This is very popular drink in wintertime. The next day will keep you very busy once again. You will be arriving in Irkutsk, which is, by the way, my hometown. And I should say that it looks absolutely amazing, especially the embankment of the Angara River in winter when all the trees are covered by the layers of snow. The first snowflakes in Irkutsk have already fallen on the ground a few days ago. Definitely, it did not stay. It melted straight away. But soon, probably the end of October, the snow will come and start and stay on the ground. Well, the city still carries on with everyday daily lives. You will see the major sites of Irkutsk. You will see, make a stop at the local market to see how people sell things and what they sell in there. You will find quite a lot of people outside then. You will visit, have a chance to look through some beautiful wooden houses. Irkutsk is quite famous for it. And you will also visit the house of Prince Volkonsky, one of the Decembrists, the Russian nobles who tried to make an uprising in 1825 and were eventually exiled to Siberia, and who did a lot for bringing more culture and education into Siberia, and even enjoy a beautiful concert from music of that period of time in the house where they lived. But this is not going to be all your program in Irkutsk. This will only take half of the day. The other half you will spend in the countryside. And when you asked about what will be the highlight on the journey, Usually it's pretty difficult to say because all different places have their own great places, great things to do. But for winter tour, I definitely should mention that the afternoon part or the countryside part in Irkutsk, and particularly on Lake Baikal, probably are the best days of activities. Hopefully the weather will be fine because we are going to take you into the forest, in a camp which is located right in the middle of the forest. You will take a ride on a proper troika. Troika is a cart or a sleigh pulled by 3 horses. And that used to be one of the major way of transportation across Russia and particularly across Siberia in wintertime. Nowadays, the art of training the horses to work together as a troika is almost gone. Nobody really uses it for transportation anymore. They're only used for fun, for in wintertime. And it's pretty difficult to find a proper troika with trained horses to do that. And this place really has a traditional sleigh and a traditional setup. It will give you an idea of what was it traveling across Siberia, say 100 years ago, 150 years ago, how those people could go for miles and miles and miles and miles like that. But the feeling is very special. It's like, you know, if you watch Dr. Zhivago, that's probably will really remind you of that movie. But this is not all that you can do there. You will also have a chance to experience one of our most popular winter funs, sliding down the iced hill on an inflated balloon. Kids love it, but believe me, we grown-ups love it absolutely too. And you can see that people a little bit scared of it at first, but then come again to do it again and again. And afterwards, we will take you to a private dacha, the country house. You know, for majority of people, dacha is the summer house where they spend time only during the summer, where they can grow their vegetables, their berries, their fruit. But some families insulate their houses or make them more comfortable and warm to stay there all year round. So a family of our friends that we visit in summer as well have a house like that. They have been building this house by themselves for over a decade. And now we can come there in wintertime. They not only they have a beautiful house, but they also have an absolutely brilliant bus house, a banya. That's what you can experience. And you know, when it is hot in summertime, it's nice to try it. But when it is crispy cold outside and you're inside the warm, hot banya, sauna, Russian sauna, and then you can jump out into the snow and then back in, you feel like absolutely newborn. And then our hosts there at the dacha serve us really nice meal of their homemade food. They grow a lot of food themselves. They have chicken, they grow their own potatoes, cabbage, all different kinds of vegetables, and they make a lot of preserves for wintertime and bake their own bread. And besides, you're not only sitting and eating there, you have a chance to talk to the hosts, talk to and ask about their lives. And this is usually quite an unforgettable experience. Being such a busy day, you have to be prepared for another day to follow, the day on Lake Baikal. And that's probably for all our guests is one of the most unforgettable experience because usually we hold along the lake by the old Second Baikal Railway by a steam engine, which looks absolutely fantastic against the blue sky and white snow. By the way, I want to draw attention. On most of our Siberian pictures, you will see bright blue sky, whereas in European Russia, it is not that common. As you go beyond the Ural Mountains, the climate will change, and further into Siberia, the climate becomes drier and drier. And that means we can get really cold temperatures, but bright blue sky, crispy cold, and believe me, minus 15 in Moscow is much worse than -20 in Irkutsk. Lake Baikal, we definitely depend on the weather on that day. And even though it looks bright and clear, we need to be prepared and dressed really properly for that particular day. Because if the wind starts blowing, which can come very unexpectedly, you can be doomed. But we are going to take the hovercrafts drive around the lake. You will have a chance to experience the beautiful transparency of Lake Baikal ice. You can see through it, even down to the pebbles on the bottom. The ice is from 50 centimeters to over a meter thick, something between 1.5 to 3 feet thick, right there where these people stand. And it is still transparent. You will see how the locals fish for Baikal fish, particularly omu, in wintertime with the nets, which is a special art, and our local fishermen will explain you how that happens. You will have a chance to take a ride on the dog-sledge. Look at those beautiful huskies, they're so eager to go. You'll have a chance to take a ride on the snowmobile right on the ice of Lake Baikal. And definitely for lunch, we will take you to a very, very special place. A place that is located right in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the lake. Back in the beginning of the 20th century, when the Trans-Siberian Railway was still under construction, and the line that was to go around the southern end of Lake Baikal still was being built, the trains were taken across the lake, pulled by horses, on the tracks that were put straight on the ice. And in the middle of the lake, they used to put a little shed, a little house, right on the ice, where passengers could stop and have a cup of tea. Carriages were pulled by horses one after another. Passengers were taken across by the horse sleds. And at the same place, now we built the same shed, the same little house. And we have a table made all out of ice, glasses made out of ice. What we serve there is the traditional Siberian vodka, which is made with Baikal water, and definitely Baikal fish in different, prepared in different ways. The grilled fish, omu fish grilled over the ashes, is one of the most beautiful delicacies of that place. But also we offer you something like a Siberian sashimi, the deeply frozen fish, which is eaten with salt and pepper. Quite an experience, believe me. This is something that you absolutely should not miss. This will be one of the most fantastic days where you can feel the spirit of adventure, the spirit of Lake Baikal. And that's probably will explain you why so many Russians love winter. And then after that, if you're traveling between Moscow and Vladivostok, starting from Moscow, going on the eastbound journey, you will have a chance to visit Mongolia. We're not going to Mongolia by train. We usually, the last few years particularly, we are flying over to Mongolia. Mongolian railways have some changes in their system, in their operation. Also, they have to maintain a lot of tracks. So it became much easier to charter a flight and fly to Ulaanbaatar for just one day. We spent one night in a beautiful Shangri-La hotel right in downtown Ulaanbaatar. We visit all the major sites in Mongolian capital, Ulaanbaatar, but also we drive to the countryside, seeing that beautiful, huge, and monstrous statue of Genghis Khan, which is located right in the middle of nowhere in the national park, is quite something. It is gleaming under the sun. Mongolia has the same blue sky and actually quite little snow. This is quite unusual to have so much snow as on our pictures because it's dry and it is windy there. You will have a chance to see how the nomadic people live in wintertime. quite an interesting experience how people can get used to survive in pretty severe environment, and how they can carry on with their animals, and how they can live in their ger. And you will be quite surprised how warm it is inside the ger. So not only you're going to see all those places, but you will have a chance to go and visit and talk to the locals about their everyday life, particularly in wintertime. Well, if you are not going, if you're going from Vladivostok to Moscow, if you're going on the westbound journey, you're not going to go into Mongolia, but you will have that program of Lake Baikal in Irkutsk spread for 3 days. So you will have more chances of seeing and experiencing activities at Lake Baikal and in Irkutsk. And also on our westbound journey, you will have an additional visit in the city of Ulan-Ude. Well, our regular program will take you around that city, which is located on the other side of Lake Baikal. Ulan-Ude, Ulaanbaatar sounds very similar, but Ulan-Ude is a city located in Russia, and the major population there, the people called Buryats, which are very much related to Mongols. You will see the city that is the capital of the Buryat territory, but then you will set off from the city to the countryside. And again, beautiful landscapes of the endless steppes and the valley of frozen Selenga River. This is what it is here. Selenga is one of the biggest tributaries of Lake Baikal. And your journey to the countryside will take you to the village of the Old Believers. This was a religious group of people, religious trend that separated from the main trend of the Russian Orthodox Church. They wanted to keep the traditions and the rituals of their ancestors. The only difference between the modern Russian Orthodox Church and the Old Believers is the way they practice, but they practice the same religion. Because they did not want to obey the reforms that happened back in the times of 18th century, they were exiled. Eventually, they ended up in Siberia. And those people have saved a lot of their traditions, costumes, songs, and you will see how a regular, ordinary, small village in Siberia lives during the winter time, when everything is covered with snow, when your garden is buried in the snow, when you have to put on layers of warm clothing before you could go outside. But when you still have this very joyful spirit and enjoy this coming winter rather than suffer through it. And definitely they will sing us their songs, they will tell us their stories, sad and beautiful sometimes. And we'll have another chance to try some local food, homemade food, which our hosts will prepare for us, and we'll eat either in one of their homes or in their community center. This program will be in both eastbound and westbound tours, but for those who don't go into Mongolia, for those who are traveling on westbound, starting from Vladivostok, you will be interested to learn about the Buddhist culture and the Buryat culture, right? And Buryats and Mongols are very much related. So Ulan-Ude is one of the biggest centers of Buddhism in Russia. And nearby Ulan-Ude there's a huge complex and some beautiful Buddhist temples. That's where we will take you. And also we will offer you to try some traditional Buryat food. Those who go to Mongolia will try the Mongolian food, and if you meet, you will find out that these foods and those traditions and those songs are very, very much alike, because those people share the same culture. Well, days on board the train. You know, after been on and off and visiting and going and seeing and talking, you probably will very much enjoy of just absorbing and looking out of the window and seeing the busy stations where different goods and oil is transported across Russia from the Pacific coast or to the Pacific coast, seeing how Siberian rivers, all frozen in wintertime, become roads. See typical little villages all buried in snow. You will see plenty of such pictures. Stretch your legs on some stations which are connected with our history, like this one is where the Decemberists were originally sent. But at the same time, this is your time when you can indulge in reading, probably watch movies and documentaries. We have a really good library of documentaries and movies on board the train available in each cabin, which are mostly devoted to the history and culture of the places that we visit, history and culture of Russia and other countries where the Golden Eagle goes. You will have a chance to talk and discuss what you have seen. We'll have lectures, we'll have discussions during those days, but also you will have a chance to learn some Russian. Not only during those 3 days, definitely we'll start the lessons much earlier, but this is a time when probably you will be holding an exam. And definitely this is also the time when you can indulge in our fine dining. Enjoy the beautiful food that our chefs will be preparing for you. Our signature caviar dinner, drinks in the bar, special desserts, parties. So this is all that can make your time, and also a great place, a great time for meeting and talking and sharing your experiences with your fellow travelers. As I mentioned, the groups are usually rather small, so it gives you a much better opportunity to meet everybody and make new friends. And for those who start their journey in Vladivostok, they have an additional stop in a city called Khabarovsk. For a long time, when Vladivostok was closed for all the visitors, foreigners, being Pacific Navy base on the Pacific, all the foreigners could only start their journey from the city, Khabarovsk. So this is quite an interesting place, founded in the second half of the 19th century, with a beautiful embankment of the Amur River. The Amur separates Russia from China. You will have usually a half-day stop there to explore the city, to see the main sites, to see the frozen Amur. They have also a beautiful, absolutely stunning regional studies museum, which tells a lot about local history and wildlife. And the city shares a lot of history from the 19th century, but a lot of important history of the 20th century. One of the places, by the way, where you can see some traditional Soviet sculptures that were usually placed in the parks, here you can see them half buried in the snow. As for the eastbound journey, we usually have only a half-hour stop for services in Khabarovsk because the train arrives in that city rather late in the evening. And Vladivostok, for those who start their journey from Moscow, for our eastbound journey, this will be the final point of their journey. Here you see our group taking a picture by the kilometer marker saying 9,238 kilometers, the length of the modern-day Trans-Siberian. And for those of you who will start their journey in Vladivostok, this will be the first city that you will see in Russia. The city is quite important. The name can be translated as the ruler of the East, the Russian ice-free port on the Pacific. A very important military base throughout all the Soviet history. all the Russian history, by the way. That's where you can see one of the submarines and go inside, the submarine that was operating during the Second World War. This is the terminal point of the Trans-Siberian Railway. And this is a very modern city that started to develop rather fast. First, after 1991, when it became opened for the foreigners, was the status of the closed city. And secondly, after the bridges were constructed across the Golden Horn Bay to connect different parts of the city for the summit held there in 2012. This route going across the whole Russia will give you a much better understanding of our character, of our life, of our way of seeing things, of Russian history. And particularly doing it in winter time, you probably will get a much better idea of why Siberians, why Russians love winter so much, and something that very often does not happen in a lot of different countries. So I really hope that going across this country in winter will give you a very different view, very different perspective of our country and of our life. So my dear ladies and gentlemen, come to travel with us on the Trans-Siberian Railway. And this is the way of seeing real Russia, meeting local people, learning about our history, traditions, food, culture, and discover our beautiful Siberia and our beautiful country. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tatiana. That was a brilliant overview of the Trans-Siberian Railway, but also doing that in the winter months, because we know that's so different from doing it in the summer months. So thank you for that. And thanks to everyone that's been sending through their questions during the presentation. We've got obviously quite a bit to go through, but before we do that, I just wanted to quickly run through the train element. Obviously, Tatiana's mentioned the Golden Eagle train, and she's mentioned some of the things that we do on board, but I'll just show you some of the accommodation types, but also the inclusions within this journey as well. So as Tatiana's mentioned, we obviously run the journey in both directions, and the eastbound and westbound, although the itinerary differs, they're both 15 days in length, and they include a hotel accommodation either side of the main journey. So whether traveling in eastbound or westbound direction, you'll have one night's hotel accommodation at the Four Seasons based in Moscow, and then you've got one night's hotel accommodation at the Lotte Hotel in Vladivostok. Other inclusions on the tour, obviously it's fully inclusive from start to finish. So if you haven't travelled with Golden Eagle previously, this is what you'd expect from any of the tours that we feature. So from the moment you arrive with us, the obviously arrival and departure transfers are included. You're then brought to your hotel accommodation before the actual journey begins. And from all of your meals, your drinks with meals, all of the on and off train excursion programs and the VIP experiences that we include are fully inclusive within the price. Tatiana's obviously mentioned the winter clothing that we provide on this particular journey. And it's also important to mention that we include a UK registered doctor who travels with us on board the journey and is there to provide you peace of mind when you're traveling with us. So really the only additional items that you would need to budget for when traveling on this journey would be your international flights, so traveling to and from the starting and end points of the tour, your travel insurance and any visas that you may require as well. Now I know a couple of questions have come up about visas during the presentation, and for this trip, if you're doing the eastbound journey, so you're traveling from Moscow to Vladivostok and you're also taking a charter flight into Mongolia, then most of our travellers require a double entry Russian visa and a single entry Mongolian visa. And if you're taking the classic version back from Vladivostok to Moscow, then you just require a single entry Russian visa. Now that won't apply for all nationalities, but what we do is provide detailed guidance for based on your nationality. So when you book with us, we'll provide specific advice and guidance on that, so you'll know exactly what you need to apply for. So we'll go into more detail of the questions later, but hopefully that answers that for now. So let's move on to the train itself. So the Golden Eagle is our flagship luxury train. It's the only fully en suite train that operates in Russia and Central Asia. We have 3 categories of cabins on board. Now, the entry-level compartment that we have is the silver class compartment. Now, as you can see, these are 2 cabins back to back here, and this is set out during the day. So as Tatiana mentioned, you can sit in the privacy of your own cabin, obviously watch the scenery go by. You have your ensuite bathroom here, which is like a wet room style bathroom containing toilet, your wash basin and your shower. And you can see there's a shower curtain here that just goes around to protect the rest of the bathroom when you're showering. In terms of amenities within the cabins, then we include complimentary bathrobes, slippers and premium toiletries within the cabin. You also have a storage area, a single full-length wardrobe here, and additional storage above the compartment here. But what we do advise is that once you've unpacked all of your belongings at the start of your trip, then you can store the rest of your luggage at the end of the carriage for the duration of the trip. So it gives you a bit more room within your cabin. So within the cabin, as we mentioned, we provide a 24-hour cabin attendant service. So you can utilize that by, there's a button within your cabin and you can press that and the cabin attendants will be down very shortly to provide for any needs that you have. And then in the evening when you go down to dinner, the cabin attendants will come in and they'll transform your cabin for the evening setup. And in this particular cabin, you have the lower and the upper berth bed that you can utilize. Obviously, if you're a solo traveler, then you can just have the bottom bed turned down rather than both beds turned down. And the lower berth bed is slightly larger than the top berth. So the lower berth is the equivalent of a small double in the UK and a twin XL, the equivalent of in the US. The next category is our most popular category of cabin, and that's the gold class compartments. So as you can see, it's a very similar layout to the silver class compartment, except it's about 20% larger. So it's 77 square feet in size. You can also see the difference within the bathroom area, that you've got a separate shower cubicle, as well as the luxury of underfloor heating, which is obviously a brilliant thing to have when you're traveling with us during the winter. You have slightly more storage within the gold class as well. So you've got a double wardrobe here, as well as storage overhead. And there's some, again, storage cubicles along here, or on the top and the bottom there. With, again, the main difference, obviously, with the size of the cabin, but also some of the inclusions. So in silver class, you will receive a generous allowance of drinks with lunch and dinner, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. But when you're outside of meal times and you're at the bar, then drinks are an additional expense. Whereas in gold class, we include all of the drinks from the standard bar list within the price for you. So they're the 2 main differences between these cabins. The evening turn down, again, the lower berth and upper bed formation, but the lower bed is the equivalent of a double bed in the UK and a full-size bed in the US, but again, works in a very similar way. And then lastly, our Imperial Suites. These are the largest suites that we have on board. There are only 5 available, so they do sell out very quickly and ahead of all of the other categories that we have. And the benefits, obviously, apart from the additional space that you receive in these cabins, you do have the added benefit of a private car and guide service in all of the destinations that we travel in. That's an added benefit included within this price. You also have complimentary laundry service, and you have premium drinks included within this category of cabin. Now you can see it's 120 square feet in size. You have 2 large picture windows within the main area, so it's very bright and airy. You also have much more space to sit during the day and enjoy the scenery as you're traveling by. And you have a larger power shower cubicle here, and again, underfloor heating within the cabin. And then you can just see it's set out in a bit more detail. The seating area here obviously is designed that you can dine within the cabin as well if you wish to dine privately rather than in the restaurant cars. So that's an added benefit of this particular suite. And then similarly in the evening, the cabin attendants will come and convert your cabin into a UK king size bed, which is the equivalent of a US queen. So hope that gives you a very brief overview of our cabins that we have on board this train. I think we should move to the most important part, which is definitely the food on board the train. Our chefs are extremely highly trained and the food on board is absolutely incredible. And the thing that makes the food is that it really reflects the destination that you're traveling through. So every day you'll have a traditional Russian dish that will reflects the exact sort of regions that we're traveling through. We'll have our gala caviar dinner as well that you can sample. As Tatiana said, we have the vodka nights, which are obviously paired in some cases with the caviar as well. So you will have a real authentic experience of in terms of cuisine. We also have international options available, and we can cater for the majority of dietary requirements as long as we have as much notice as possible at the time of booking. So these are sort of the types of meals that you can see on board here. And on a typical journey, on a winter journey, as Tatiana mentioned, it's a smaller journey. So we'll typically take the one restaurant car on board because it can seat up to 54 guests at one time. And in terms of the other public area that we have on board, it's the bar lounge car. Now, this is the social heart of the train. It's where many of the daytime activities take place when we're spending longer durations on the tour. And it's a great place for you to mix with the other guests outside of meal times, and also when you're back off the day's excursions, that you can actually watch the scenery go by. But you can also enjoy some of the books and take some of the DVDs from the library that we have here. And you can enjoy some of the Russian language lessons that we do on board, or you can listen to some of the sort of informal talks and lectures that we sometimes do either in the bar lounge car or the restaurant cars. So that gives you an overview of the train. I know it's very, very brief, but we wanted to try and pack in as much as possible. But all of this information is available to download in the e-brochures that are available on our website. So you can download there and have a good look at all of the information provided about the train and the accommodation types as well. So this is the prices here I've just put up for a typical 15-day tour, which is the tour that Tatiana has taken you through, either from Moscow to Vladivostok or vice versa. In 2022, however, you might have seen on our website, we're running a very special tour from Vladivostok to Moscow, which is a fully steam-hauled trip. So the whole trip from Vladivostok to Moscow will be hauled by Soviet-era steam locomotives, which is a highly unique tour and one that's obviously extended in length. We're going to see lots of different destinations on this route, and that is available as a dedicated e-brochure on our website. So if you are interested in that, then please feel free to download that and take a look in more detail. So that's all of the information we're going to provide you today in today's presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and Tatiana is available here to answer all of the questions that you've sent through. So I will just run through some of the ones that we've had through. One of the first ones we had, Tatiana, was asking about the hours of daylight that we have on this particular tour, because all of the pictures that you've shown us have been of glorious sunshine, but that's obviously a really, really good question.
Well, actually, if you look at the map, you will see that Irkutsk, for example, or most of Siberia, where the Trans-Siberian goes, is located much further south than London, for example. So we usually have quite long daylight time. We are not, we're in the cold territory, but we are not in the polar circle. We don't have polar nights, or so the sun usually goes up and it becomes light around like 8:45, 9. By 8:30, 8:45, it becomes light already, and the sun goes down in February around 5:30 in the evening. So it's a fairly long daylight time.
Well, I agree. I think that's surprising compared to, like you said, some parts of the further places north of that. We had another really good question, Tatiana, here about because obviously you showed us lots of images of the traditional Russian houses that we visit along the way. Do the colours of the houses have a particular meaning?
Okay, the colors of the housing. Historically, three colors were extremely popular all across Russia: blue, green, and white. You can find hundreds of different explanations. One of them says that these were the three colors of the Russian Orthodox Church. White symbolizing the purity, blue symbolizing the sky and the heavens, and green symbolizing all the living things. Those are the most popular colors and most common colors you will see along the route. Probably originally it was that. Later on in our Soviet period, I don't think anybody really paid attention to those colors, maybe just tradition. On the other hand, I've heard this explanation that the green color, the green paint was cheapest, or those three paints were the cheapest. So choose whatever explanation you like best. But these are the three most popular, most common colors that you will see along the route for houses. Also, most of Siberian houses were traditionally not painted, just the window frames, because the climate is such that the paint peels off very quickly. And historically, traditionally, people did not really bother about that.
No, that's fair enough. That's a good answer. We have another question about Wi-Fi on the trip, which comes up very often, but perhaps you could answer what people's expectations of internet connectivity should be when they're on the train.
Okay, we do have the Wi-Fi in each carriage, but you have to remember that sometimes we'll be passing the black spots, which can be in Siberia the size of some proper European country. So it can be periods of several hours where you don't get any signal at all. As soon as we get to a station, there will be a signal, and then as we depart, sometimes it will come, sometimes it will go. There's one thing that you'll have to remember when we're talking about the development of those technologies. The population of Siberia is relatively small. Look at the map of Russia, the whole territory. The area from the Ural Mountains, from Lake Ekaterinburg up to the Pacific coast, Vladivostok, holds less than 40 million people. And majority of them located along the Trans-Siberian, but as we go further and further east, there will be lesser and lesser big towns, big cities. And for miles and miles and miles, you will be going across just the virgin forest, virgin taiga forest. That's why the signal does not really work there. It's not needed really. But in the towns, in the stations, you will get a proper signal. So we will advise you as we go when to expect a better signal. And on some days, you will have it most of all the days. On some days, it will come and go. In the last few years, the situation have improved dramatically. Comparing to what it was 10 years ago, it's an absolutely different story now. So usually you will be able to stay in touch, probably not to permanently work as you go, but with times to get your mail, times to communicate with your friends and family.
And we've had a question here that's obviously a question that concerns a lot of people at the moment, and it's regarding COVID regulations in Russia. And they're asking about the entry regulations, obviously to enter Russia and what the requirements are currently. And I'm aware that Russia is asking for all arrivals for any visitors to show a negative PCR test on arrival, which needs to have been taken, I think, 72 hours before arrival on entry. And I don't know whether Tatiana, you can, obviously you're in Moscow at the moment, so if you could advise maybe what it's like for people entering, because I know some places are requiring that you have to be vaccinated in order to actually enter like restaurants or what have you. Is that still the case?
Well, at the moment, we don't have any restrictions on entering the restaurants or entering museums or public places. Generally, you just have to wear a mask. And you have to wear a mask in all public places, in transportation. Those regulations change every now and then. Sometimes ago, you had to have a special QR code to enter certain places, like public places in Moscow. Not anymore. They're talking about those things probably coming back, good knows. So far, foreigners coming to Russia have to have a PCR test taken 72 hours prior to the arrival. And then upon arrival, they also have to take a PCR test. Again, it varies for different nations, like for depending on where people come from. If that will be the case when the tour is running, we will organize via the hotel where we stay the PCR test for our guests. That is not a problem. They will not need to run around the city to find a place where to do it. So far, in the hotels, officially, unfortunately, the vaccines are not recognized mutually. A Russian vaccine is not recognized in a lot of European countries or United States, and same with the Western vaccines. But in the hotels, if you show your certification of vaccination, there will be no questions. Nobody will ask you for the Russian QR code or anything. So that's the situation at the present.
And I think you quite rightly said, Tatiana, it's changing so frequently that what obviously we promised to all of our guests is that before departure, you will receive full guidance from us on what the current restrictions are and the current requirements are in each of the countries that you're visiting. And we will guide you through the process as much as we can. And as Tatiana mentioned, if it is a requirement that you require PCR tests on arrival, or if you're required to take a PCR test before your departure from Russia to your home country or your onward destination, then we will arrange that for you. So that's something that we'll take care of. And it's obviously very difficult for us to publish information like that because it changes so frequently. So you will receive specific guidance for that tour that you're due to travel on with us. And similar with that, you'll also receive visa guidance, as I mentioned earlier. And there was a question here, how long before the departure can you apply for your visa? And that depends on your nationality. So for example, US citizens can apply up to 6 months before departure. Some citizens some residents of other countries can only apply 3 months before departure. So that's again the specific information that you'll be provided when you book the tour. So hopefully,
and also nowadays it changes so much because as far as I know, that recently the Russian embassies were given visas rather fast, at least for American guests. So you need to check in each embassy in each country.
So there's another question here, Tatiana, about the train. Are lectures that take place in the whether it's in the restaurant car or the bar lounge, are they able to be listened to from the privacy of your cabin?
Well, unfortunately, the live lectures that we will be holding in the public area of the train, like the restaurant car or the lounge car, we won't be able to transmit them to people's cabins. But what we do plan to have is recorded lectures by our signature guest speakers who have traveled with us, some professional historians, geographers, astronomers, professional guest speakers who have traveled with us on many tours. We will have their lectures covering the same aspects recorded, and you can watch it in your cabin. The one that will be actually held on board the train, you can choose. Either you can come and participate in person, or you can watch a similar lecture from one of our professors, or maybe the same person on the flat screen in your cabin.
Yeah, and there's also as a huge library of different documentaries and TV shows that you can watch on the actual LCD screen in your cabin, isn't there? So there's lots to choose from. So you are in essence still able to watch things within the privacy of your cabin. So just a couple of, and just well, I think there's one more question here that we just need to run through. Just a question here about asking if anyone on the train speaks Spanish. And maybe you can answer that question, Tatiana. Do any of our attendants or?
Well, in case we have some Spanish speakers and we are informed about that in advance, we can always invite one of our interpreters who speaks Spanish. Of regular train staff, unfortunately, we don't have any Spanish speakers as it is, and I have to confess I don't speak any Spanish. It probably was not the most common language to study either at school or in the university, but we do have brilliant Spanish speakers as our partners, as our tour managers who work for us. So one of them can happily join the tour if that will be the case, and we'll be absolutely happy to communicate with our Spanish-speaking guests.
Definitely. Well, I think we should leave it there. We've gone over time just a little bit, but thank you to everyone who's joined us and for sending us your questions through. We really appreciate you taking the time out to join us today. And thank you to Tatiana, obviously based in Moscow, who's delivered this presentation for us today. If you have any questions following the event, then you can always get in touch with us by email or by phone, and we will do our best to answer you as quickly as possible for that. And if you have any questions whatsoever, then please do get in touch. So we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Looking forward to seeing you in Russia on board the Golden Eagle train.